What is Pure-O-OCD? Pure-O-OCD is intrusive, unwanted thoughts, images, and impulses far outside of your character. In the last video, I talk about the fact that I was diagnosed with OCD, and this is the type of OCD I'm challenged with. And what I want to point out today is that OCD and the diagnosis, does it really matter why you have this diagnosis? Does the diagnosis matter for you? Or is it, why does this pop up? Why do these symptoms show up? If we get symptoms and we ask ourselves why they're popping up, they could then be adjusted. For me specifically, living what I'd like to say a recovered life of OCD, my symptoms pop up when I'm stressed, and when I notice they pop up, I have the opportunity to ask myself, what is going on in my life right now? Why are these symptoms popping up, and what can I change to minimize these symptoms? This leads me into telling you that I met this beautiful friend. We're not going to use any names, but I met this beautiful friend and a wonderful connection began to happen. Why is this important? When I met this friend, my OCD symptoms were quite high. I was moving through some very big changes within my life, and I was driving myself crazy with these OCD symptoms. I was like, oh my God, they're here again. I'm having to move through them. This isn't something uncommon for me, but they were annoying. However, when I met this friend and these symptoms started to go away, I started to ask myself, what is different? Why are these symptoms going away? This has never happened before. I meet somebody and my symptoms are being minimized. And what I realized was connection is very important. To be seen, to be heard, to be authentically you with somebody, to be able to share what you are moving through changes everything. And this is actually why my OCD symptoms started to diminish and even go away. So I am going to speak to you a little bit about Brené Brown. She preferences, well, I'm going to hold this up kind of like Shakespeare style for you guys. Brené Brown, she's a professor and researcher, and she emphasizes that human connection is essential for well-being, and it's rooted in the concept of vulnerability, authenticity, and empathy. So basically, connection happens when two people decide to be honest, open, and share vulnerability. And that's exactly what was happening in my case. So my OCD symptoms diminished. So this can work for anybody who's dealing with any sort of mental health challenge. If your symptoms are popping up, what actually needs to shift and change to minimize those symptoms? It can be something as simple as connection. So the more you connect, the more real you are, and the more time you spend with somebody being your authentic self, the better you feel internally. And this is what I started to notice as this beautiful friendship began to create. You shape your environment. So essentially, if we surround ourselves in an environment that is healthy and keeps us thriving and allows us to be ourselves, we feel ultimately and optimally better as a person, as a human being. So I invite you to look at your life right now, the different connections that you have, the different people in your life. So what you will notice is there are parts of you that become non-negotiable. When you start to realize in your mental health journey that if you live this specific way, you are naturally going to feel better. You create this toolbox for being better and being the best version of you. You're not going to let anything get in the way of it. So I have some tips here specifically for your environment. What needs to shift? What needs to change? How can you tell if your environment is not keeping you in a place of thriving versus, feeling like something isn't quite right? If your symptoms are constant and ongoing, something needs to change. So here's what you need to know. In your environment, are your values aligned? Now, that's not just in a relationship, that's also in friendships. Do you guys think the same way? Do you jive the same way? Is creativity flowing? Do you have great conversations and the energy is building? Does it feel safe to be fully and authentically you? Do you feel completely accepted around the people that you surround yourself with? Is there judgment there? I mean, I know that I have been in friendship groups where I feel judged and I feel not quite like myself. Is the relationship healthy? This is really important. Are we pulling for something? Are we codependent within our relationships? That could be, again, friendships, family, even in work environments. It all impacts you as a person. Does your physical space feel cluttered? I know this is a really weird one, guys, but like feeling cluttered, feeling overwhelmed overwhelms the brain, and that also impacts your environment. So, this is something to look at when, again, looking to see if you're thriving within yourself to be better. Oh, this one's big, guys. Negative and social norms. If you're hanging out with people that are drinking alcohol, smoking, doing drugs, whatever it may be, is that impacting your mental health? These are things we have to look at. Just because you don't do it personally, remember the saying, like, look at your friends, look at the people you hang out with, and this is a reflection of you. In many ways, this is a reflection of you, because even if you do not act like the people you surround yourself with, this does not mean it's not impacting who you are as a person and what you are moving through. So, though I'm speaking about mental health, if somebody is watching this and you don't have a specific mental health challenge you're thinking about, these are still things to help you be the best version of you and look at your environment. A highly stressful environment is not going to help you. Cultural, societal pressure, imposed cultural expectations. How are you being yourself, and how are you truly connecting if there's an expectation of who you are supposed to be? If you feel isolated and feel alone, like the black sheep of a group, a family, friends, if you're feeling isolated and alone, again, your symptoms are going to pop up. How you feel is not going to be great. And I've definitely been there. So I empathize with you if you are experiencing this and if you're feeling this. And at the end of the day, in order for two people to connect, this is what I want you to know. If you want two people to connect, you both have to show up in vulnerability. I've had people come up to me and be like, Sabrina, why aren't you connecting? Are you shut down? And I'm like, no, I'm not shut down. This is the truth, you guys. Two people need to be willing to be vulnerable. Two people need to be willing to be open to accepting conversation. Two people need to have non-judgment, that unconditional kind of love. And when I met this friend, what was so beautiful is the commonalities and the things that we were discussing and the way the conversation was flowing and the excitement I had being around this person, and finally being able to just be all of me and this person showing up as all of him, and then seeing how my OCD symptoms started to go away. So the lesson in all of this today, the reason I'm talking about this is, again, if you are moving through some sort of mental health challenge, or you're not feeling like you could be fully yourself, or symptoms are popping up, I want you to look at your environment, look at the connections you have in your life, what needs to shift, what needs to change. And that's what I'm always talking about, the shift, the change, the growth, because that is never ending. And just to focus on connection. That connection makes us feel seen, makes us feel heard, and you deserve to be seen, heard as the authentic, beautiful person that you are.